And welcome to Music City Model Works. What I want to do today is I want to do a little tutorial slash demonstration on craft acrylics, airbrushing craft acrylics, and model acrylics, specifically Testors Aztec brand model acrylics. And the reason why I want to do that is I've had a couple of subscribers leave me PMs wanting me to show how I mix and do the craft acrylics some, and a couple specifically named the Testors Aztec model acrylics that are conspicuously in my videos pretty much. I need to get me a separate container for those. I've got everything else pretty well in their own containers. I haven't got me a spot set aside for those, so they've been sitting on my model table, but they're kind of obvious to the eye when I'm doing videos, and I have them panned out just a little bit further. But what I want to do, a couple things. I want to show the difference between we're going to airbrush rather some craft acrylics mixed with thinned with Future, and then we're going to let that dry, and then we're going to clear with Future, and then side by side with that on a piece of scrap body I'm going to use the same craft acrylic mixed with thinned with washer fluid, windshield washer fluid, and thinned with, or rather mixed with, gloss polyurethane. I want you to be able to see the difference between what the craft acrylics look like thinned with Future or mixed with Future, however you want to put it, and then cleared with Future versus the same craft acrylic thinned with washer fluid mixed with gloss polyurethane, and we're also going to clear that with gloss polyurethane after it dries. And then secondly, we're going to, on a separate piece of scrap plastic, I'm going to airbrush some Testors Aztec brand model acrylic paint that was specifically designed for modeling purposes, airbrushing, brushing, whatever you want to do with it. But it's specifically designed for the use on plastic, whereas craft acrylic is more for porous substances like craft projects, I guess pottery, poster board, whatever. I don't do craft projects much, so I don't really know what all you could use. I guess anything. Okay, so let's get started. First off, I want to go over what we're going to be using, and this may run on a little bit long, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop the video and in the drying process. What we're going to do first is we're going to use let me pull some of this out of the way since I'm kind of zoomed in close. Here are the two paints that we're going to use for the demonstrations. First off, since we've been talking about folk art so much, and that seems to, it and Ceramcoat seems to be the what everybody's been talking about, and what we've been using as far as and here again, this is going to be for airbrushing acrylic for body finish, for a shiny show car type finish. This is not going to be and I may do another tutorial down the road for how I mix for chassis work, for suspension, interiors, and that kind of thing. I think Chris at Classic Plastics done a couple, and I don't want to beat this horse to death, but since I have had a couple of people specifically ask, and I think as more and more people come on board with this, we're going to see more and more people ask, how do you do this, how do you do that? And there's 3 or 4 others out there right now that are pretty much doing it, using it exclusively. I use it exclusively, not necessarily on the body finishes at the end, but almost all of the rest of my painting is done with craft acrylic. I use it for the engine pretty much all the way. I use it for the suspension, for the frame, for the chassis, the interior, and just with the different ways that I can mix polyurethanes, the gloss with the satin. You can come out with all kinds of different looking finishes. So but anyway, here's what we're going to be using for our test run today. This is and I didn't want to use folk art. I want to show you there are other paints out there. It's not just folk art that you have to have. This is Anita's. You can find this at Hobby Lobby. You can find it at Michael's. Let me drop back on that. I'm not sure about Michael's. Maybe so. It's hard. I can't remember. It's so hard. I go to Joann's. I go to Michael's. I go to Hobby Lobby. But anyway, you can find it at one of those places. And this is their metallic. I want to do a different color. You see the blues, the purples, the blacks. I wanted to do something a little bit different, but I wanted a darker kind of shade so you can kind of get the effects of when we clear. This is their Topaz. It's number 11205. Probably the cheapest brand next to Craftsmart there is. You can get this Anita's for like 79, 89 cents. And then when Hobby Lobby has their paint products off or their craft products 30% off, you're giving practically nothing for it. So so we're going to use that for our side-by-side comparison with the Future and the gloss polyurethane. And it's a gorgeous color, kind of a cross between an aqua and a blue. So we're going to use that. And then for the model acrylic, we're going to use the Testors Green Pearl Aztec brand model acrylic. So it's also a very pretty color. I haven't even taken the protective cover off the bottle on the inside of the cap yet. So we're going to get a first look at this together. So, and I've practiced with their purple and their purple pearl and their silver pearl, the red and the blue on scrap plastic before. So I want to do this here with you, and we can get a look at it together. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, I want to do the craft acrylic first. And what we're going to do, we're going to mix up some Topaz blue with Future, and I've got my Future ready to go. Now I'll be using a couple of airbrushes, and that's about all we're going to use for that. I'll put a little more because I'm going to be doing okay. I'll try to keep this in frame as much as I can. You can see how much we've got there, and we've got about a quarter of a bottle or so. And to that we'll add about the same amount of Future, maybe just a tad less. Let's see what we've got now. It's not quite enough. And that looks better. Okay, so we'll go with that. And I've got my popsicle sticks here ready to use for stirring, and bear with me here if my hand's in the way. Go up, let me get it stirred up a little bit more. And I really like this color. I've shot it just a little bit on some for sale sign I had cut up, and it really is pretty. And I may use this on maybe not my next project, but on the Revell 57 Ford Custom. I think that would really look nice with maybe a white top or a lighter blue, some lighter blue trim interior, whatever. And I'll try to give you a shot of, there we go, what the consistency looks like, what I like. And you'll have to bear with me because I'm not where I can see what you see. I have to kind of swing around in my head and that looks like what I want. So we'll go with that. We'll start with that. I've got some other things over here to the side. I've got some alcohol wipes. I've got some Q-tips ready to go, and what I'm going to be doing occasionally, if my tip starts to dry up a little bit, it shouldn't with this mix with the Future, but I have a bowl of plastic sour cream bowl with water and rubbing alcohol. So that's what I'll be cleaning my airbrush with as we get completed and start to mix other paint. So now this is what we're going to be using. I've already been playing around with some other paint. I thought I had a whole body that was not painted, but I don't. So what I've done is I have put a piece of tape down the middle of this scrap Nova body that I've had. This is my practice body. I've had it. You can see the stains from other paint I've been trying. I've had this for probably a year or so. So we're gonna spray the front half with this mix of Topaz and Future, and we'll let it dry. And we'll stop the video, let it dry for about 30 minutes, and then we will come back. And well, I may just go ahead and shoot the whole car. No. Let's leave it like that. Let's leave half. I was going to do half of this and then do another piece of plastic with the gloss, but I think I'll just do it right side by side. That would be better. I'll spray this, let it dry. We'll come back. I'll mix the Topaz with the gloss polyurethane, and we'll shoot it and let it dry, and then we'll clear. So let's get started with this. Got our airbrush set to kind of a low setting, just barely open right at first, and you'll see me shoot onto the back of my hand, kind of as we go along, in case my tip starts to dry up a little bit. And all right, let's get started. So we'll start, and I'm hoping that you can see as much of this as I can, but I'll try to keep my hand back out of the way as much as possible. Air compressor is at 24 pounds. And we'll try to cover this up. Now, one thing to remember too is you don't want to get right up on it with the brush, but you also don't want to get way back, especially when you're using the polyurethanes with windshield washer fluid. Windshield washer fluid, of course, is wood alcohol, basically wood alcohol. It dries very quickly. This craft paint dries very quickly, so if you spray way back away from it, it almost dries before it can hit the surface of what you're wanting to paint, and your paint will not lay down very well at all. You'll almost blow it off as you're painting. So we've got our first kind of mist coat down, and we'll go back over it. Now if you look at it and it starts to look like it's a little bit runny, don't really worry about it, because because this is mixed with Future, it will almost level itself out to perfection, so you don't really have to worry about it. Okay. Okay. All right, we'll put that up, let that dry, and we'll be back to spray the gloss polyurethane with the Topaz. See you here in just a little bit. All right, it's been about 30 minutes. What I did was I thought I was spraying another coat of the Topaz with the Future on camera, but I looked up and my camera had cut itself off. My battery had ran down. So it's been actually more than 30 minutes. It's been about an hour. So I went and got another battery, stuck in it. I put another coat on there just to darken it up a little bit because it was a little bit light. I didn't want to put a whole lot on it just for, you know, demonstration purposes. But that's kind of how it looks after just spraying straight Topaz paint, craft acrylic mixed with Future, about 50-50. I think it come out pretty good. Now you'll have to remember that I don't paint my bodies out here like I'm doing now. I paint them in my paint booth. I always, if you have a paint booth, one thing to remember, now out here it's got dust all in the paint from where I'm out here in the open and everything, so I do most of my painting inside my paint booth. If you have a paint booth and it's inside, especially inside an area where you have pets, one thing here's a tip you might want to remember is, I've heard people that's got paint booths say, well, you know, I've got a paint booth and I still get dust in my paint. You know, I can understand why that's happening. I'm keeping my paint booth clean. One of the things you have to remember is your extraction fan sucks not only the paint fumes and the mist out, it also draws in the surrounding air around the paint booth. So whatever air is in the room where you're painting close to the paint booth, if it's got dust and, you know, dust particles in the air, the paint booth is going to draw that dust and those particles inside and suck it right to your paint job. So one thing I try to do when I'm painting in my paint booth is I take a spray bottle of water and just dampen it down. I learned that from a guy that used to have his own paint shop, and he did paint work. He helped a guy redo muscle cars, and they always went over their inside of their paint booth with, you know, the full size paint booth with a hose pipe. They wet everything down, got it damp, and brushed it off and got the excess water off. But what it did, it toned any kind of dust particles down, dampened it to where there wasn't, you know, a lot of dust blowing around when they were using their paint gun. So that's what I do. I spray inside my booth just a light mist, not to where it's dripping, just enough to knock the dust down. So anyway, all right, there is the Future and Topaz together. All right, let's get ready and mix up some. Let's mix up the Topaz paint with our polyurethane and washer fluid. And I'm using way more than I need, but I'm just showing you, if you were going to be doing you know, a full body or at least a half a body, I would suggest starting out with at least you know, at least that much to start with. And here again, I'm using a Pache starter airbrush. This is not, you know, I have a Pache Model H with an 05 tip on it that uses a lot more paint than this one does. I don't like shooting craft acrylic through that brush with that 05 tip. even turned down, even with the nozzle on, or the nozzle turned down on the Model H, it still sprays way too heavy for craft acrylic, thin down to where it will spray through the brush. And what it does is, what I found it does is that it, with that size tip and the craft acrylic thin down to where it will spray through the brush, it throws out way too much paint, and it wants to run, and it doesn't lay down very well. So that's why I like to use these Pache starter airbrushes. They're great. You know, it's kind of like, you know, going to a dinner party in a Toyota Corolla versus a Bentley. You may look a lot better when you get there, and you may be more stylish, you know, in the Bentley, but you still get to the party in the Toyota. So if it's my money, I'm going with the cheaper product. So anyway, that's just me. All right, we're going to put some gloss polyurethane. Now, we're not going to mix as much of the gloss poly as we did with the Future. Now, you have to remember, this gloss polyurethane is not as thin as Future, and I don't put it in there for thinning purposes. I'm putting this in there for the protection it provides to the paint, and for the type of surface color that I want, the surface type that I want, the texture, gloss versus satin versus flat. So now, this is not real high gloss. It's gloss, you know, it's kind of a light gloss, like I said. It's kind of like the Tester's clear gloss, just a flat clear gloss rather. So about that much of the clear gloss poly, and about that much washer fluid to wear with the polyurethane and the washer fluid. We have about that much mixed in with the paint. So we'll go with that to start with. And like I said, you know, if it's a little thick, we put a little more washer fluid. If it's a little thin, we'll add a little more paint. And my stir stick. And just taking a quick look, that looks like that might be just a little bit thin. Alright, let's take a look and see. No, actually that's about right for me. And what I'll do is I'll check it off my stir stick. It might be a tad thick. And then I'll lay it on the side of the jar. Now let's run it down the jar good. You don't want to go too much by your stir sticks. You know, they're wooden. If you're using a wooden one, that is. You know, they absorb some of it. So I like to try to put it on the side of the jar and see how it runs down the side of the jar. If it tries to separate, then it's too thin. If it won't run down at all, then it's too thick. One thing about craft acrylic, you can't judge craft acrylic like you do other paint as far as the consistency of 2% milk, fat milk, whatever. I don't drink milk, so I couldn't tell you what it looks like. So I don't use that to go by. I judge by just trial and error, how I've played with this enough to know what consistency works well, you know, off the combination off the jar and off the stir stick together. So alright, we have our compressor set still at 24 pounds. We haven't adjusted that at all. There we go. Alright, let's start and see what we've got. I got a little overspray from the other, but we're not going to worry too much about that. Need to open up just a tad. There we go. I'm not going to do a lot on the top because of the black overspray from the other. I just want to show you that. I want to show you too how you can get to your window jams and what have you. Just a little bit more paint, a little more air rather. Keep in mind this is a single action airbrush. The only thing coming through this brush is air. The external mix. Now, one thing about the craft acrylics mixed with the washer fluid and the polyurethane is it dries much quicker. The polyurethane doesn't take any time to dry like the Future does. So we will let this dry a little bit though, and we'll come back and we will probably try to shoot another coat just to show you how we get it gradually darker. So you can kind of see we still got a little lightness compared to this. So we'll stop the video and we'll come back and we'll shoot another coat in about 15 minutes or so.